To Abby, listen, I will always remember where I came from. I really respect the show, and I respect what the show did for me, for Maddie, for Kalani, for Kendall, for Nia.
They all act as if I had nothing to do with the show, and it was toxic. They were stars. They were making money. They were on top of the world. You're just gonna dump me?
Abby actually taught me a lot. I carry a lot of what she taught me with me.
We were shooting the television show, and all those kids were talking about boys. JoJo was on that computer. She was uploading her own videos. She was hustling back then. She's a household name. Every store you walk into, it's not going to stop.
Do you like block out a lot of it? Or do you remember a lot of it? Or you just
I remember a lot of it. I also think because I like knew what was real and what was fake.
Yeah.
So like I tried not to let things like affect me that much. So for the most part, like it was like fun memories, and obviously as you've seen, there was definitely not some fun memories. But yeah, I remember a lot of it, like most of it. So
Some famous lines
Yes,
have come from this.
lots of them.
JoJo, have you learned nothing?
Not a thing.
What was that about? I know what it was about.
Yeah.
People don't know the lead up. That's the thing, is everyone sees me screaming at these little kids and they don't know what happened. That's like C. They don't see A and B.
Right.
Okay, so what happened, Miss JoJo?
I was really good at interrupting, still am. It's one of my specialties. I won't say I'm good at a lot of things, but I am really good at that. So you would get really frustrated at me when I would interrupt, which is very,
She
very
would
valid.
interrupt two adults speaking, and I used to tell her about it all the time.
And so if you watch the clip, you see you and Gianna like with each other, but not thinking together was the vibe.
All
So
right.
I did wait.
You would think years after Dance Moms ended, the drama would slowly fade into nostalgia. But somehow, every time a wedding shows up, everything comes right back to the surface. Brooke Hyland's wedding was supposed to be a peaceful, private moment. No controversy, no chaos, just celebration. But instead, it quietly reopened a door nobody expected. One filled with old tensions, unanswered questions, and names that fans never stopped talking about. Because suddenly, people weren't just looking at wedding photos. They were asking a very different question. Who was there? And more importantly, who wasn't? And that's where everything started to spiral again. But what happened next made it even worse than anyone expected. At first, Brooke's wedding was nothing but positivity online. Fans called it beautiful, simple, and emotional, but nothing unusual. But then the internet did what it always does. It started analyzing everything. People noticed one name missing, JoJo Siwa, and instantly, speculation began. Was there a falling out, hidden drama, secret tension? But JoJo shut it down quickly. She explained that she and Brooke were never really close. No bad blood, no hidden story, just two people who didn't have a deep relationship in the first place. She made it clear there was no reason for her to expect an invite, and no reason for people to turn it into drama. For a moment, it looked like the situation was over. But that wasn't the whole story. Because someone else was listening very closely to that conversation, and they didn't agree with how it was being framed. On the Dear Dance Moms podcast, Kelly spoke about JoJo's reaction, and at first it sounded positive. She praised JoJo for being mature, calm, and not turning the situation into a public issue. According to her, JoJo handled it better than most people would. But in the middle of that discussion, something shifted. Because the conversation drifted back to an old wound, the infamous birthday party situation from years earlier. And suddenly, Melissa Ghisoni's name was back in the spotlight. According to the discussion, Melissa wasn't happy with how things were being interpreted. She reportedly felt there was a double standard. JoJo was being praised now for staying calm about a wedding invite, but wasn't as understanding back during earlier Dance Moms reunion drama? And just like that, the past wasn't the past anymore. It was active again. And what it revealed would drag everyone back into one of the most controversial moments in Dance Moms history. To understand the tension, you have to go back to 2024. During a Dance Moms reunion era event, most of the cast was preparing for a big official taping. But the night before, something unexpected happened. A private surprise birthday party was held for Paige Hyland. Maddie, Kenzie, Brooke, Kendall, and others attended. It looked like a heartfelt reunion moment, but it quickly became something more complicated because two names stood out immediately: JoJo Siwa and Kalani Hilliker. They weren't there, and that's where the controversy began. JoJo and Kalani later expressed that they felt excluded, especially because it came during a time when the group was publicly reconnecting. Now, Kalani even suggested there was more going on behind the scenes, that it wasn't just a simple birthday party, but something that felt strategically timed around the reunion itself. Suddenly, what looked like a celebration started to feel like a statement. But not everyone agreed with that interpretation. Because according to another side of the story, it wasn't about exclusion at all. It was about something much simpler. And that explanation would change the entire narrative again. On one side, the accusation was clear. The birthday party felt selective, intentional, and emotionally charged given the reunion timing. But Melissa pushed back on that narrative. She explained that it wasn't a coordinated reunion event. It was simply a birthday celebration for Paige, eyeing someone who didn't have a strong personal relationship with everyone from Dance Moms anymore. And in her version of events, the decision of who attended wasn't about drama. It was about closeness and timing. She even stated that Nia had actually helped coordinate parts of the gathering, adding another twist to the story that fans didn't expect. Because now the situation wasn't just who got invited, it became who remembers it correctly. And in Dance Mom's world, those two things are never the same. But just when fans thought they were dealing with old drama resurfacing again, a completely new controversy appeared. And this time, it came from a wedding halfway across the world. Kalani Hilliker's wedding in Italy was supposed to be another dream moment, a beautiful destination celebration, a milestone event. But even this couldn't escape controversy, because shortly after the wedding, Kalani's mother appeared on Abby Lee Miller's podcast, and what she said shocked viewers. She openly discussed her concerns about how fast Kalani's relationship moved, questioning the speed of the engagement and how quickly everything unfolded. But it didn't stop there. She also spoke about the financial strain of attending the wedding in Italy, mentioning that not all family members could make it, and that it created challenges behind the scenes. Her comments weren't angry, but they were brutally honest in a way that many people felt should have stayed private. And then came the part that sparked the biggest reaction online, her tone about the wedding itself. While she acknowledged Kalani's happiness and insisted she wanted the best for her daughter, not many viewers couldn't ignore how her words came across. It wasn't necessarily what she said, it was how she said it. The pauses, the hesitation, the way certain details were emphasized just a little too heavily. To some people watching, it felt less like celebration and more like quiet frustration being carefully held back. And that's when the internet exploded again, because now it wasn't just Dance Mom's drama between cast members, it had shifted into something far more personal. This wasn't co-stars or reunion tension anymore. This was a mother speaking publicly about her own daughter's biggest life moment, and people were deeply divided over whether that should ever happen in the first place. The reaction was immediate and intense. Some viewers defended her strongly. They said she was simply being honest, and that not every parent sees their child's life choices the same way in real time. And that maybe, just maybe, it was refreshing to hear someone speak without filtering every emotion for the camera. To them, it felt real. Not polished, not scripted, not curated for public approval. Just raw perspective from someone watching their child step into a major life change. But others were far more critical. They argued that there's a line between honesty and oversharing. And when it comes to something as emotional and personal as a wedding, especially your own child's, that line should never be crossed publicly. A podcast, they said, is not a private living room conversation. It's a global stage. And once those feelings are broadcast, they stop being private reflections and start becoming public commentary that anyone can judge, replay, and dissect. Because once it's online, it doesn't stay a moment of honesty. It becomes a permanent record, a clip that can be paused, replayed, and analyzed from every possible angle. And in that space, nuance disappears fast. What might have been an emotional, complicated feeling in real time turns into a headline, a soundbite, a debate. And suddenly, Kalani was in the middle of yet another Dance Moms-related controversy she didn't directly create. She wasn't the one making the comments, she wasn't the one stirring discussion. But her life event had become the center of public debate anyway. And that's something that follows many of the former cast members. Even when they try to move forward, the spotlight often circles back around them in unexpected ways. Meanwhile, fans were also still debating the Brooke wedding situation. JoJo's explanation about not being invited and the old birthday party drama that refused to stay in the past. Every conversation seemed to connect back to another one. Every explanation created a new argument. Every attempt to clarify something only added another layer of interpretation. And slowly, it all started blending together into one massive pattern. And that pattern became impossible to ignore. When you step back from all of it, the weddings, the podcasts, the interviews, the explanations, you start to see something deeper happening. This isn't just about invitations or parties or destination weddings anymore. It's not even just about who said what or who was right or wrong in a specific moment. It's about history that never fully healed. Because the Dance Moms cast didn't just grow up together, they grew up under pressure, competition, and constant public attention. From a very young age, their relationships were shaped in an environment where emotions were amplified, comparisons were constant, and every moment could be turned into a storyline. And even years later, those dynamics don't simply disappear. They evolve. They resurface in interviews, in reunions, in weddings, in casual comments that suddenly turn into headlines. Old feelings don't always fade. They just wait for new situations to bring them back to the surface. And that's why every milestone feels heavier than it should. Why celebrations sometimes turn into debates. Why private emotions end up becoming public discussions. Because in the world they came from, nothing was ever just personal for very long. And that's the real pattern the internet keeps witnessing. Whether anyone involved intended it or not. A wedding becomes a headline, a podcast becomes a controversy, a celebration becomes a debate. And every time one situation calms down, another one starts right behind it. So the real question isn't just who was invited or what was said or who's right or wrong. It's this: why does every milestone in this group seem to reopen the same old wounds? And maybe the answer is simple. Some chapters don't close neatly. They just wait for the next moment to reopen again. Because in the world of Dance Moms, the drama never really says goodbye, and it definitely never stays silent for long.